So, 10 years later, I guess I can speak about it. The night before I gave birth to my son, so it started out like a regular kind of a night, I guess. I knew I was going to be induced the next day. And so I was able to plan ahead and have my other kids being watched by their dad, as we were due to get up at 5 in the morning and then get to the hospital the day of. So I was thinking, oh, this can be a good time for some togetherness, some cuddling, some sweetness, and I just really wanted some support. My belly was huge. It was I wouldn't say like a hard pregnancy compared to some people who have like serious issues, but it was a pretty hard pregnancy for me. So I just remember, I think it was one of the biggest I've ever been. And I was just so excited to meet my little guy. But, the day before, I was like, I got one picture basically, and I seen it pop up in my Facebook memories. And this story that I'm about to tell you has actually been kind of heavy on me for the last couple of weeks. And I knew it was like getting close to this time, and I can feel this in my stomach, and I'm just like, maybe it's time to talk about it. And I think I can talk about it now without breaking, without crying, without feeling the emotions that used to consume me, control me, and continue to destroy me. I've done a lot of healing, and I got one picture, and it was in the Mexican restroom in the mirror, and hindsight is 2020. I can see exactly where this man was either a misogynist or he just straight out hated me. And here I thought I had met the love of my life. Boy, I couldn't have been more wrong. If this has been a torturous situation the whole time, So I remember he was very angry about me wanting to go out to eat. He hated going out to eat. But here's the weird thing. Like when we were just in the dating phase, he always wanted to go out to eat. Like he really pretended, like he really, really pretended that like he was everything I was looking for in a partner, And then, I don't know, everything just changes. So he wasn't like crossing over into violent angry. He was more just like his annoyed angry. But that's kind of normal for him and for the situation. So I wasn't really going to let that like get that. I wasn't going to let his anger and annoyance stop us from going out because I really wanted some Mexican food and I knew I was about to give birth the next day. And I really just wanted a date night, I wanted like cute times, quality times. So we went, and he's the type that, like, he's like very cruel. If I was to ever take a picture of myself or a selfie or anything, like, he would try to flip it around to make it seem like I'm obsessed, or I'm only about myself, or like, oh, of course you're looking at yourself, or of course, he was like the same way he'd, oh, of course you need to have your Starbucks, or like, which I'm not even the type that gets a Starbucks every day. I probably get Starbucks maybe like 5 times a year, you know? Like, so for him, he just, I don't know what his idea is really, but, I just remember I really wanted a picture of my belly because it was so big, and I was like, oh, I'm about to have my baby. I just wanted to be excited about it, And he just wouldn't. So, of course, it was a selfie in the bathroom mirror. When we got back home, I was like, oh, can we sit together? Like, I want to look at our photo album. And he just wanted to go to his room and, like, leave me alone in the living room or whatever. And it was like, I wanted to be together. I wanted a partner. I wanted to, like, make sure everything was packed in my bag and, like, look through our photo album that we had just, like, I had just put it together. And you guys, this is back before there was, like, all the digital stuff and food delivery. This was not a thing. Like, if you wanted food, you had to go and get it from the restaurant. And this was still, like, when people printed pictures out, which I really want to start doing again because I actually really miss photo albums. But it was like just 2 weeks before I had gotten my order of all of these wedding pictures, and I put them all together, and, like, I just wanted it perfectly arranged in this photo album. And I wanted to look at it with him. I wanted him to sit next to me and, like, just look through it and, like, have some type of a connection or something. And I was always in that position of, like, bidding for a connection and, like, attempting to, like, set things up to where we could have time for connection. And it just wasn't ever anything that he was wanting. So that was sad. So I just remember, like, obviously when you're pregnant, you're even more emotional. And I remember that I was sitting on the couch, and he just went to, like, his room and just, I don't know what he was doing in there. I don't know if he was looking at his phone. I don't know if he was trying to sleep. I don't know if he was just listening to music. I don't know what. And I just sat there, and I was just like, I had never had a good birth story. It's always been, and this is my last baby. And I didn't know that at the time, but I knew that, I just, after having, like, all of these other birth stories to where I was either just in another bad situation with another man, or, like, anything, like, I just wanted, like, sweetness, that's all I was trying for that day. I had barely any energy. It was hard for me to breathe. It was hard for me to walk at that point. I was like 39, 40 weeks along. And I was just crying. Like, I just sat there and I just was like, how is this even like my life, you know? I was just, yeah. It was like such a mix of like loneliness and just wondering like why, like, and I think after a little while he probably came out and he was like, you're always just trying to start shit or whatever. Like, I'm just sitting here because I wanted to spend time with you, like I wanted to cuddle. It was winter, obviously. Cold, I wanted to sit there with my husband's arm around me, looking at some photo albums, just making sure we're all prepared for the night. And so he comes out of his room, and I guess when he sees me sitting there crying, he got really mad. So, like, he started getting up, like, putting himself in my face, like, yelling, and, like, telling me that he never wanted this. He thinks we should get a divorce. And I was just, we had only gotten married a few weeks before, like, literally. And I was so happy. Like, I that's all I wanted. I wanted him to be my husband. I wanted us to have a real family. He's like, I want a divorce, and like, just like screaming in my face, to the point where I actually had to try to get away from him. So I was like getting up, and I like went as fast as I could up the stairs, and he was trailing behind me, yelling. And I remember I had gotten into my bathroom, and I had tried to get up there fast enough, because there was a way that I've had to get in the bathroom and get away from him before. There's a way that if you get in there, shut the door, and then open the drawer, nobody can get in from the outside. And pretty sad I learned that trick. But I did not get up there fast enough. He had me cornered near my shower and near the window, and he had started strangling me. He had his hand wrapped around my neck, and he was screaming in my face. I could smell just the nasty cigarettes, and like when he talks, he spits too, and it's just gross. And like, he was so angry, and he was just like enraged, and he's like, you're a fucking cunt. You trapped me into this. I never wanted a fucking kid. I didn't want to get married. I don't want you. I fucking hate you. Like, and I couldn't breathe. And I was crying, but I feel like I almost couldn't even cry. And like, everything was just flashing in front of me, like, so fast when he was doing this. I didn't know if he was just gonna kill me. I didn't think he would. I figured he would stop, which he did. Obviously, I'm still here. I'm still alive, but he got it to where I got so weak that I was actually like, instead of where I was standing, he actually like held me by the neck while I had to kind of like slink down and sit down. And I like was sitting amongst like shampoo bottles and shit because it was like the corner. And like every time I go to the bathroom and I sit on the toilet, I just look at that corner and like, this is what happened. And I just cried and cried and cried. Because he was always telling me he didn't want me. And he was just screaming at me at the top of his lungs, you know, calling me every name in the book, acting like it was me that did it on purpose when it really wasn't. You know, I did not purposely get pregnant. I actually didn't want to get pregnant. I finally just lost the weight. I had been working out so hard that I just treated myself to all new clothes, and I had saved and saved and saved because I was like literally had nothing back then. And I went and bought all new clothes, and like I was just hoping for a new chapter in my life, you know, without him. And then I don't know what happened. He ended up coming over and he gave me this coconut oil rub, and like the night I ended up pregnant, I knew which night it was because we hadn't been talking. And like we weren't really together. Like we were one of those couples that was like together but not together a lot. So it was like it had been like 3 weeks since I'd seen him. And we would text back and forth and maybe argue or have a phone argument here and there or any of this shit. But you know, I had put my kids to sleep. That day he was like acting nice. He came over. He gave me like a whole body massage with coconut oil. Then he went on to like eat my ass for like a good half an hour. He was just eating my pussy, rubbing my feet. Like he was like giving me some good fucking loving, right? And then we did all the positions, and then to finish he wanted me to sit on top of him. So like I did. I mean, we had been together for almost 2 or 3 years, so it wasn't like, you know, we knew like what we did. Like we did what we did, and it just so happens that I happened to get pregnant that time. Not on purpose. And he will still to this day blame me like I fucking trapped him or tricked him, but he never got trapped. He never got trapped because he never stayed. So like if that was a thing, that it wasn't even a thing because he's not. If anyone got trapped, it was me. So I didn't know I was pregnant. I didn't even think I was pregnant. The next day, things kind of went back to normal. Him just being a fucking asshole and treating me badly. So I stopped talking to him again. And then a month went by. I don't know. I still hadn't really seen him. I think he came over one time to like try to do it, and he ended up like helping me wash dishes or maybe helping me out with something, and then somewhere along the line we got in a fight, so we actually never had sex again, like in between the time that I found out. And so eventually I was thinking, why the hell haven't I got my period? You know how that goes. Maybe some of you do. And I had just got myself like so strong to where I was thinking, you know what? I deserve better than this guy. I deserve better for my life. I cannot keep allowing this man to destroy my mental health. You know, it was like we would have this really passionate love, but it wasn't love. Come to find out, you know, at the time I thought it was. It felt good, and like I didn't find out I was pregnant till about probably 7 weeks along, because I was kind of in denial. I was kind of like, oh, I hope not. Please, God, no. Like, please, God, no. Like, not because I didn't want another baby, but because I didn't want to be tied to him anymore. I was just finally trying to build myself up. And he just destroyed me. Like, I don't know if I'm still okay from any of this, honestly. Like, I'm trying really, really hard to not let it affect me, but it really does. And so going back to the night, I just sat there in my bathroom, like on the floor, like not able to move. I just want to send so much healing to that past version of me. I just want to send so much unconditional love to that past version of me. And I was scared. I was devastated. And I sat there and I didn't even want to talk to him. I was still thinking about, oh my God, what are we going to do now? We've got to wake up real early together and go together to go have this baby. And I'm like, this is how I get to bring my son into the world. And it's like it almost continuously just gets worse of what he did to me while we were at the hospital too. Like I was in a position where I needed him. I was in a vulnerable position. You know, I gathered myself up. I got a shower. I just wanted to take good care of myself, knowing I was going to be in the hospital for a few days. I washed my hair, you know, it's just all this stuff. But I was doing that while I was basically in shock and trauma from what he just did. And then after all of that, it's like I didn't want to go near him. Like, he went back downstairs. I didn't want to be anywhere near him. I think he might have even drove off at one point, which led me to feel really scared that I wasn't going to be able to get to the hospital the next day. And I was panicking, and I was like watching and waiting, like scared to fall asleep because I didn't know if he would be coming home to be mean to me, which has happened before. And I just somehow made it through the night, you know? I didn't sleep peacefully. I had my alarm set, you know, and he wanted to kind of act like nothing was going on, but he wasn't really. There was such like a lack of connection there that I couldn't even feel comfortable, like, with him being my like support system during the birth and everything, which he actually wasn't being a support system. So it was like, even if I could have felt okay, it was like he wasn't doing what I would have needed a man to do. Like, he wasn't like there next to me. He wasn't like holding my hand. He wasn't doing anything to make me comfortable as the contractions were coming. And he was so disconnected from everything and just didn't care that I was like going through labor and birth, and like, he just wasn't a comfort to me at all. And like, I just remember the nurse, you know how they ask you and they'll be like, are you safe with the father of your child? Are you safe in your house? And has he ever done anything to hurt you? And you know, you gotta lie and be like, no. Even though I wanted to tell her, you know, like, yeah, he did. He did hurt me, you know, and the birth was hard. I wanted pictures, but he wouldn't take pictures. Like, he was just not helpful. He's just mean. Like, he wouldn't say anything nice. At one point was saying how bad everything was hurting in my back, and he's like, oh, he's like, you know, women have been doing this for years. Like he wouldn't like help in any way that I needed help. And so finally my baby came out, and I'm not even going to even get into the whole medical thing, the whole medical team bullshit I was dealing with, because that doesn't even matter. This is a story about him, and like, I could go on and on about the fucking healthcare system being a big failure. But my baby came out. I immediately put him to my chest. I needed him to advocate for me about like the prolonged cord cutting, about, you know, not rushing, about everything. Like, I already knew I wanted my baby skin to skin with me. Like, I wasn't giving him up, you know, that was that. He was not saying shit. He didn't care. He wasn't like acting proud. He was an asshole. And I remember when it was time to cut the cord, he refused to cut the cord. I actually had to do it. The doctor was like helping me do it while I was holding the baby, because he's like, well, the doctor can just do it. And I was like, no, I'll do it, you know, like, I wanted to make it somewhat special, whatever, you know. But so I cut the cord. I just held my baby. I was just so glad he was there. But I was exhausted, guys. It was such a hard, long labor. And then I didn't even get sleep the night before. And basically, I was starving, and I asked the nurses, can I get some food? And they're like, I'm sorry, the cafeteria is closed now, because it was like, you know, later in the evening. And I asked him, I'm like, can you get me some food? There's you know, a restaurant I like down the street, can maybe some spaghetti and meatballs or something. He's like, I'm not your fucking slave, is what he said to me. after I just went through like hours of labor and delivered his baby. He would not drive 5-6 minutes around from where the hospital was to go get me a warm meal. And I just had to sit there and starve till they offered breakfast, which was like, I think 5 or 6 in the morning. And it was like maybe, and she said the cafeteria had just closed. And it was maybe like 7 p.m. And I guess they closed at like 6:30. Something like that, and I was so defeated and so in need of care. And I was like still hooked up to IVs and everything. And then they, took me back to a room, and he was torturing me. He wasn't allowing me to sleep. Anytime I'd fall asleep, he would like do something to like my area of my face to like make me like shock awake, or like and I asked them to put the baby, in the nursery for a minute so I could sleep. Or he was like, well, I'll hold him. But I was watching him hold the baby, and I couldn't trust him because he was closing his eyes. And I'm like, the way he was sleeping, I didn't want my baby to like roll out of his arms. And he's like, I'm not falling asleep. I'm not falling asleep. I'm like, yes, you are. Like, this is not safe. Please don't do this. Like, let me either have him and I will stay awake, or we need to give him to the nursery. And then the nurse would come in and she's like, well, are you sure you want him to go to the nursery? Looks like dad has him just fine. You're going to have to trust him sooner or later. If this is, and it was like, I don't know if he had her fooled or what. But like, she was not helping the situation. I was like, look, I need sleep, like a couple hours at least. Like, I can't. So we ended up just having him hold the baby. And as he kept falling asleep, I was like, no, okay, give me him. I actually had to get up out of my hospital bed, take my baby back, and just like hold him and stay awake, because I couldn't trust him, because he was literally falling asleep. And I was so weak, and I was so hungry and so depleted of every bit of energy from everything I had gone through. And I just made sure to stay awake and hold my baby and protect him. And at one point she was like, well, I was like, can we ask him to like leave the room for a few hours? Like, can I get some rest? She's like, no, we can't do that unless you want to get security to remove him, and then you have to file a report. And I'm like, it doesn't need to be that serious. I'm like, I need some rest. And it was like every time I would rest or something, I could feel like my mouth would like want to open, and I'd want to like, sleep. It's not pretty, but he would like, do something to me. And like, I don't know, it was just torturing me. Like, every time I thought I could finally get into a deeper rest, he would jar me awake with something. Some noise, or he'd cough, or he'd do something to keep me, from getting rest. And it was torture. And then the next day, of course, I wanted the grandma to like bring my other kids to see it. And it was just like, I've just gone through so much. And, he went to the gift shop, and he brought me a flower. Like, he brought me this big blue rose little thing, which I actually kept for a really long time. I think I might still have it. I don't know if I threw it away finally, but it said, I love you, you know. For what? To look good? Like, for what? I just want to send so much love to that past version of myself. I just want to send so much unconditional love to that past version of myself. Just asking any angels to go to that past version of myself and send her unconditional love. I don't think I would have even been able to talk about this 3 years ago without spiraling into crying inconsolably. It's been 10 years. My son's birthday is tomorrow. And throughout these 10 years, this man has found countless ways to ruin or sabotage moments that should have been special memories. And I hate that should have. I hate that shoulda, woulda, coulda, whatever, you know. But for someone who doesn't know what it's like, and had no idea at the time. At the time, I had no idea. And it's taken me years of learning terminology, learning feminine and masculine polarity, learning outright like wounding and how wounding attracts you to certain people, and you can have a very high chemistry attraction with a certain person because of a wound pattern that you're looking to heal. Oh, and he did the job, right? After being abandoned time and time again, he did end up abandoning me when our baby was a month old. But not without first throwing things at me while I was breastfeeding, or screaming in my face while I was changing a diaper, or, you know, making sure that I wasn't able to sleep, or that I wasn't able to use the bathroom, or that he would cause me panic attacks by making me feel like I was unsafe, or that he was going to kidnap the child, take the baby from me if I fell asleep, go stay somewhere out of state. He had put me in so much fear, so much sadness, so much despair, that I would go for many more years in this cycle of being halfway relieved when he's gone because of the torture that he put me through, but then in the other half, in a deep grief for what I had hoped and thought our relationship would have been like, and the fact that I just never got to have a family. And I really believed that we were going to have a family. And it took me, I'd say if I just came out of this pain a month ago, well, it took me 10 fucking years. 10 years that I've been robbed of my life. And nothing's even changed for me. I'm still alone here. Very single, not talking to anybody. And I used to feel very deeply and very emotionally about that loneliness, and about that lack of a partner. But for some reason I had a shift. And even though I'm still alone and I don't have a partner, I am somehow fine with it, I guess. And I'm really starting to see clearly that I didn't deserve any of this stuff. That, like, I was literally just a girl, just wanting love, just thinking normal things, like normal, cute family things. And sometimes I wish he never found me, but I mean, I love my son more than anything. So, like, if that's who he had to come through in this life, then that's what it is. But I think I feel better talking about this a little bit. And I feel a little lighter talking about this now. And it really has been very heavy on me the past couple weeks. I hadn't been able to sleep very well. I've been thinking a lot about it when I'm in meditation. You know how when you get into a deep meditation and you're, just trying to relax your nervous system, and then all of a sudden something pops up and you're like, oh, it's that time again. So I think maybe this was like helpful for me to talk about it. I'm just sending you so much love. If you're a female and you're dealing with an absolute evil monster of a man, I hope that you can find the strength within yourself to know that you don't deserve that. And they may never change. And I think about how life is now, and I've, being alone for so many years and not having memories and family time and stuff like that. But then I also think, well, what if he didn't leave? Or what if I didn't make him leave? Or would me and my kids still be subjected to his rage? Would we be living like that daily still if I didn't have the personal strength eventually? I mean, I didn't have it right away. I didn't want my son being taken from me. He threatened me with that. I didn't want my child, my baby, to be gone from my arms. I was breastfeeding him. I didn't want. Ultimately, I made the choice that being away from my son as an infant and a toddler would have been worse than me suffering this abuse. And that's the choice I made, and I don't regret that. I wanted every minute with my son. I finally ended up leaving this relationship, or he leaving me, when my son was 4.5. And ever since then, it's been trying to pick up these pieces of, not only me, but my kids too. And yeah, so he'll be 10 tomorrow. And I'm going to have the best fucking day ever with him. I have everything planned. I am so excited to spend the day with him and just give him so many surprises and just be so thankful that I have him and keep this darkness out of it. And just secretly being like proud of myself, I guess, for like coming so far. And yeah, that's my birth story. One of them. I think that was probably the worst one. So I don't know if I'll ever get the chance to have a beautiful, loving birth story, or if I'll ever even find a man who I even want to kiss, let alone have a child by ever again in my life. But I mean, maybe some people don't get happy endings, right? But I'm okay either way. I'm open to the possibility, but I'm also okay if it never happens. And just going to keep working on myself, going to keep working on my self-love, my acceptance of the situation. I cannot change this man. I cannot change my situation. I cannot make him see that there's anything beautiful or special about me. I cannot make him see that there's anything beautiful or special about my children and us as a family. I cannot make him see that I'm worthy of respect or kindness or being treated like a feminine woman. I let go. I let God. I give the situation to God, and I trust that if he got me out of this situation, that there's a reason, and that I have a reason, and that I can possibly have a future that doesn't involve me just being hurt by men. There's a seed that's been planted in me of a belief that it's possible to one day feel happiness, feel joy. And I'm going to keep watering those seeds, and I'm going to keep being excited about little things like a cute new outfit, or a fun day with my son, or cuddling with my kids, or Christmas, or loving my cats. I'm going to keep allowing little things to bring me little bits of joy, and I'm going to keep believing that it's possible for me to have a future where I feel like I have made it through the other side, Even if I'm not there yet, I'm not where I was. And I've worked really hard. I've worked really hard. And I've done my best to give myself grace. I've done my best to not ever turn into these people that have hurt me. I've done my best to keep my heart soft and not turn into the monster that wanted to destroy me. And I'm still cultivating the strength to not let him destroy me, because some days he stoops to these new lows. And it's just, even if it's just through texting sometimes, and I'm better at pulling myself out of that now and saying, okay, you know what? I give up this. I can't, nothing I say will ever convince him. Nothing I say will ever convince him to do the right thing. And somebody who's a good person, who believes in doing the right things, doesn't need convinced into it. They just do it. So I have to keep reminding myself of these things so I don't get sucked into, therapy talk with a person who doesn't fucking give a fuck about therapy talk, Some people are here to show you what it's like when they don't want to evolve. I feel I've evolved. I feel like I have more evolving to do. I want to be my best self one day. I want to be a different person one day than somebody who was ever able to attract such a low caliber piece of shit man than the men that I have had children by. Like, I'm going to keep striving to pour myself full of love, pour love onto my kids, create a peaceful environment in my house, which I've done, and maybe one day I'll get there. But even if I don't, I accept who I am and what I've been through and what I've got myself out of. And that I'm breaking these chains. I'm breaking these patterns. I'm breaking the patterns for my kids so they don't have to normalize any of that shit. And I'm going to have a fucking amazing time tomorrow just being with my son and seeing his happiness. That's what I'm doing it for. So if you made it this far into this video, thank you for watching. I guess that's it.